right, mabuhay. I am
Mabuhay.
Aki.
Hello.
Hello. I'm Aki Soriano Versos, Executive Director of the Filipino Workers Center. I want to welcome both of you. We have Kevin De Leon, former leader of the Senate and City Council District 14 elect.
Thank you.
Third elected API to LA City Council, as well as Jeanette Wynn from the USC Annenberg Innovation Lab, and with the initiative
Count the Nation. Yes.
Right. Since 1790, we've been having a census.
That's incredible.
So this happens every 10 years, and I want to know from both of you, like, why is this so important, especially now?
Jeanette, you like?
Well, first off, I love the fact that you gave about the history. And I also find it fascinating that now, for the first time ever in 2020, did you know that we're finally able to do the census online?
That's right.
Previous years, it was just, mail in.
I think that regardless of who you are, regardless of where you come from, the color of your skin, your legal status, your voice has to be counted. You have a right to be counted because so much is at stake, especially in a state like California, especially in a city like Los Angeles, that we are an incredible, beautiful mosaic of so many different ethnicities, so many different hues, a huge immigrant population, huge API community, huge Latino community, huge undocumented community. And that means resources, that means money, money that our communities need to live a better life, whether it's investments in education, whether it's healthcare, whether it's infrastructure, our roads, our transportation, whether it's the issue of the response for COVID, which has impacted communities of color more than anybody else, citywide, statewide, nationwide. In one sense, the census process is highly political also too. Even though, quote unquote, it is not political, or it's not supposed to be political, it is very political because it determines the voice that's going to represent and advocate for you in Washington, D.C.
And $20,000 over the course of 10 years is at stake.
Absolutely.
For one person. So if you think about it, let's say you're a family of 4, right? And you don't get counted, that's $80,000 lost in your community. And like you were saying, your kids' schools, community centers, all these things that benefit a healthy community. And something about the census, why it's so important for democracy, I feel, is that it helps close the disparity amongst communities. Because it doesn't matter where your zip code is, the funding is the same. And a lot of people, there's a lot of misinformation out there, and people think, well, where does this money come from, this and that, right? And they don't understand that it comes from your taxes. So if you pay money and you pay taxes, you should be getting some of that tax money back to benefit your community.
Right, and if you're not properly counted,
Yes.
then it's not going to come back to you, right? Okay, so you mentioned misconceptions. So there are a lot of misconceptions going around. I've gotten a bunch of Facebook videos that are conspiracy theories about the census that are preventing people from engaging. What are some of the misconceptions that you'd like to lift up and shed light on or dispel?
If you are an immigrant, legal, permanent resident, if you're an undocumented immigrant, that this information will be used against you. This information will be furnished to Homeland Security, to ICE, and therefore ICE will know your information and go pick you up. There is a very strict firewall. Trust me, folks like Jeanette, myself, and so many others would never in our wildest dreams advocate to be counted if we thought at the minimum that your information would be utilized and leaked against you.
Yeah, and California is the hardest to count state, by far. Even if you think about it, if 1% is undercounted, that is millions of dollars. Extremely high number. And I think one of the biggest misunderstandings about the census is people just don't understand the census. It happens every 10 years. It's not like voting, where it's been drilled, in children from a very young age, that that's what you do. And there's an excitement around a new president, right? People don't understand the census. I talk to very educated people, and a lot of times they don't understand the census and how important it is. So it's constantly a learning curve for them, and they don't understand that it comes down to money, power, and representation. And if you don't fill it out, you give that away for 10 years. So some people make the argument that, it's even more important than voting. because it affects you for 10 years, directly, your community.
So back in 1790, they were trying to count males, white males who were over 16 years of age for the purpose of seeing how many they could draft to the war. So we see like that census was super related to their daily lives and was going to impact their daily lives. And you've been saying how it impacts our daily lives. Can you even give me some examples? Because it just seems for some folks that it's so distant. Like what are like, how does the census impact my commute? How does the census, like what are some concrete, like tangible examples we can give to people?
Our public schools, our universities, transportation, roads, the very fact that we have so many congested roads, highways, freeways, that we're breathing into our lungs dirty air. Will we get money for high-speed rail? Will we get money for subways? Will we get money for electric buses that will be dedicated in their lanes to get people from one part of the city to another part of the city quickly without having to breathe all that dirty air? If we're not counted, we get less money. And if we get less money, we're breathing more dirty air.
So where do people go? They can go online to be counted.
My2020census.gov. It's very quick, very easy. I did mine in less than 5 minutes.
Wow.
Yes, it's only 10 questions.
Extremely efficient. Something that I wanted to mention about the census is we talk about the community funding and resources, but also about state representation is another important factor because it determines how the 435 congressional seats are allocated, right? Which make up the Electoral College. Now, there's strong interest from the current administration to take away power from blue states such as New York and California so we can have a weaker electoral vote.
Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and sharing your stories.
Thank you.